Hey guys, I'm Urizi. This story is all about what if Naruto was raised by the Inuzuka family? What misadventures could stem from such an upbringing? Before we proceed with the story, please like and subscribe to this channel if you liked the video and don't forget to check the description for the other works of the author if you liked the story. Let's start. Chapter 7, Doing the Wave. The next 3 days went by as normal. Naruto, Shikamaru, and Hinata went through their D-rank missions as usual, taking out the trash, weeding the gardens, and other chores that made Shikamaru cringe. During one of these chores, the lazy Nara had actually fallen asleep face down while weeding. His green clothes and shrub-shaped hairdo did not help when Naruto mistook his ponytail for a weed. Shikamaru's yelp of pain rivaled that of any of the Inuzukas. The next day, as Team 7 went to the Hokage Tower to receive their daily share of missions, they were surprised to find that they were handed a B-rank mission instead. Kakashi raised an eyebrow. Sarutobi pulled out his pipe and took a drag. Considering the number of D-ranks your team has finished, I believe you are ready to tackle this mission. A messenger hawk from Wave Country arrived yesterday. At the mention of Wave, Naruto looked up, eager for some news about Kiba and Team 8. A few days ago, I sent Kurenya's team on a simple escort mission to Wave, Sarutobi continued. However, they were ambushed by the Demon Brothers, and later the Demon of the Mist, Zabuza Momochi. Kakashi stiffened at the name. Zabuza Momochi was not known for his kindness. In fact, even as an academy student, he had already earned himself the name, Demon of the Mist, by annihilating his entire graduating class. His other epithet, Master of the Silent Kill, was even less reassuring. Listed as an A-rank missing nin in the bingo books, even a jonin of Kurenya's caliber would have their hard time in keeping toe-to-toe with Zabuza Momochi. Sensing the tension in their sensei, Naruto, Hinata, and Shikamaru could not help but feel concerned for the well-being of their friends. Seeing the genin's worried expressions, the Hokage decided it was time to give the good news. Although Kurenai herself suffered from chakra exhaustion after a one-on-one battle against Zabuza Momochi, the Demon Brothers have been captured and Kurenai and her team managed to make it to their destination with relatively minor injuries. The tension dispersed a little. That's where Team 7 comes in, the old man went on. You'll be the backup for Team 8 against Momochi and his goons. Do you accept? Kakashi looked at his genin. With the exception of Shikamaru, who seemed annoyed, they looked at their sensei with expectant eyes, although Hinata still seemed a little unsure of herself. He thought about all the weeks of training they had gone through since graduating from the academy. It was decided, Team 7 was ready. I accept, said the Cyclopean jonin. Turning to his charges, he said, we leave in 2 hours. I expect you to be ready by then. Within the span of 2 hours, Naruto, Shikamaru, and Hinata went home, packed all their necessities, and doubled back to the rendezvous point. One by one, they began arriving at the Konoha entrance gates where Kakashi, who was miraculously on time, was waiting. Hinata arrived first, with a branch house bodyguard who left as soon as the Inuzuka duo, and Shikamaru entered the scene. As soon as everyone was present and accounted for, they stepped past the gates for their very first mission beyond Konoha's walls. Team 7 looked in awe at the world beyond the village walls. Naruto and his friends occasionally went on top on one of the guard towers to look at whatever was beyond the defensive barricade, but they could only see so much. Naruto looked at Hinata and noticed the look of bewilderment on her face. It was just then that he remembered that whenever the gang went to the guard tower excursions, Hinata was never there. She was never ever there. Breathtaking, isn't it, Hinata-chan? He stated, startling her. The Hyuga, embarrassed that she had been taken unawares, blushed at and twiddled her fingers. Yes, she replied. You know, I don't understand why you don't want to go with us when we go to the guard tower, Naruto remarked contemplatively. It's not that dangerous, and even Ino and Sakura go, so why not you? Hinata felt her spirits soar. Naruto actually noticed when she wasn't around. Score! Raved inner Hinata. The real Hinata, on the other hand, merely replied, Fat father doesn't like it when I go to the guard tower. He thinks something bad might happen to me. Of course. Naruto mentally slapped his forehead. Lord Hayashi is very protective of his daughters. He was even reluctant to let Hinata go to the academy. It took Mom and the other clan heads to convince him to do so, he thought, cringing at the memory. To give Hayashi Hyuga credit, he was not a dictator as most people would assume. He was simply concerned for the safety of his children since Hinata's near abduction by some Kumonin 9 years ago. "Naruto-kun, are you alright?" Hinata asked, breaking the blonde out of his thoughts. Naruto laughed sheepishly and rubbed the back of his head. "Ahahaha. Of course, Hinata-chan. When have I not been alright?" "I could think of several occasions," replied Shikamaru, entering the conversation. Naruto scowled. "Dang it, Shika. Go stick your shadow in someone else's business, will ya?" "Make me," challenged the lazy genius, crossing his arms across his chest. In reply, the blonde charged towards Shikamaru only to get close enough to have the young chess master trap him with his shadow, thereby thwarting Naruto's attempts to get close enough and throttle the life out of the Narayer. Naruto's struggling managed to rouse Aomeru, who had been napping on his head, and in retaliation for disturbing his slumber, the puppy took it in his initiative to perform the dynamic marking over the two boys. The end result was Naruto and Shikamaru being drenched in dog pee, and having them run towards the nearest body of water to get cleaned up. After having the delay of Naruto and Shikamaru scrubbing themselves clean of any remaining trace of pee, Team 7 resumed their trek. "Are we there yet?" Naruto complained. On Blonde's head, Aomeru began to whine. Team 7 had been traveling for 8 hours, not counting the boat ride where Shikamaru got seasick. So far, they were technically in wave territory, but were still some distance away from the actual village. "Oh god. Naruto, Aomeru, shut up," groaned Shikamaru. He was still a little queasy from the boat ride and was in no mood to put up with Naruto or his Ninken. "Geez Shika, when did you become such an Uchiha?" Naruto shot back. Aomeru growled in agreement. Now, Kakashi intervened. "This isn't the time or place to fight. You can do that when we reach Nami. Why don't we play a traveling game?" suggested Hinata, not wanting to see her two dearest friends fight. We could play I Spy." "Great idea, Hinata-chan," grinned Naruto. "You always know how to make things better." At the blonde Inuzuka's comment, the all-too-familiar blush painted the Hyuga's features once more. But just as the game was about to begin, Aomeru began to growl. The fur on his neck bristled. "The game can wait," Kakashi commanded sternly. "Hinata, activate your Byakugan." Hinata did as she told and suddenly gasped. I see several men coming towards us from approximately 100 meters away. By the looks of them, they appear to be bandits." "Okay team, assume cross formation," said Kakashi. "I'll take up the front, Shikamaru and Hinata you take the sides, and Naruto you and Aomeru bring up the rear." The battle went smoothly with Team 7 making quick work of the bandit group. Kakashi marched up to the leader and yanked him up by the ropes binding him. "Who are you working for?" he hissed. "No one," gasped the man. "We simply hoped to get some money out of you." Kakashi struck him across the face. Even a greenhorn would know that shinobi never carry a lot of money with them. "Now tell me the truth. Who sent you?" "Geto. Geto sent us," groaned the bandit. "He told us to intercept incoming ninja." "I see," mused the one-eyed Jonin, roughly dropping the man. "Okay team, let's go." Team 7 left, leaving the tied-up bandits for the Hunternin. As they walked further along, Kakashi's eye fell onto Naruto's Kodaki. He recognized the weapon immediately, having seen it hundreds of times with his sensei during his Geninshinin days. Of course, it had been 12 years since it was last seen in public eye, and for it to reappear, and in the hands of an Inuzuka genin at that, was just too good to be true. "Naruto," he called. "Where did you get that Kodaki?" "The Kodaki?" replied the blonde genin, turning to face his sensei. "Mom gave it to me on the day Kiba and I made genin. She also gave Kiba a similar blade when we graduated from the academy. She said the one Kiba had once belonged to Dad. As for mine, I have no idea who it used to belong to, but it feels really comfortable when I use it, you know, as if it's been with me my whole life." Kakashi merely nodded at Naruto's words, but his mind was whirling. Blonde hair, blue eyes, and that blade. He looks just like Sensei and acts like his wife. Could he be? Kiba furiously rubbed at his eyes as he struggled to stay awake. In the confines of his hoodie, Akamaru was curled up, fast asleep. The brunette mentally beat himself up. Why did he choose the night watch again? The Inuzuka's eyelids drooped down once more, only to shoot back upon hearing someone greet out with a yo. Coming up from the footpath were the reinforcements that Kurenai had requested. Seeing that the backup team had arrived, Kiba and Akamaru immediately alerted Tajuna's household and his team. "They're here," he called. Seconds later, the rest of Team 8 and Tajuna and his daughter Tsunami were milling about the front door to receive the new arrivals. Tsunami was the first to welcome Team 7. She quickly ushered them inside, and set to work in cooking a hot meal for the newcomers. While the genin members of Team 7 dug into their meal with gusto, Kakashi had not even touched a morsel. Instead, he looked at Kurenai and Tajuna and simply said, "You've got a lot of explaining to do." Chapter 8, Hidden in the Mist. Kurenai Yuhi had a reputation for remaining calm under pressure. Even when she had fought against the infamous Zabuza Momochi, she managed to keep her cool. However, the way Kakashi was looking at her right now was even more bone-chilling than worst atrocities of the last shinobi war. And when Kurenai was nervous, her articulus tended to revert to gibberish. Seeing the Genjutsu mistress' uneasiness, Kakashi realized that he might have been a bit too hard on her. Sighing, he gently told her to repeat her story in a slower pace. Nodding, Kurenai took a deep, calming breath and described the chain of events at the moment they arrived in Wave. She explained of the sudden ambush by the Demon Brothers and later, Zabuza Momochi, and how they managed to escape in relatively one piece. Flashback. Team 8 had finally arrived in Wave territory. It had been an uneventful trip so far with Sasuke not speaking to anyone, and Kiba and Sakura leaving him out of their conversations. Kurenai herself had occasionally spoken with Tajuna, the bridge builder and the rower. Kiba and Sakura were awestruck as they passed by the near-complete bridge that spanned the strait separating Wave from the rest of the mainland. As soon as they hit shore, Akamaru yipped and bounded in and around the many puddles that dotted the landscape. His partner decided to join in the fun as well until Sakura pulled him back and chided him for being too loud. Just then, two pairs of clawed chains suddenly launched themselves towards Kurenai, binding her. Sakura gasped in horror and Sasuke's eyes widened with shock. Two men dressed in cloaks appeared from the puddles. Their headbands had 4 curved lines etched into them, signifying that they were from Kiri, the Hidden Mist village. Kiba quickly drew the Shiraga and got into position along with Akamaru. Behind Sakura, Tajuna froze, only he knew the reason why they were being attacked. "Kurenai-sensei!" yelled Sakura and Kiba. Akamaru howled in panic. Suddenly the chained-up Kurenai disappeared into a cloud of smoke. Sasuke smirked in recognition. The Kawarami no Jutsu. Typical of a Genjutsu specialist to use such a technique. The opponents would be caught off guard, and the user could use an offensive jutsu to finish them off. "Hand us the geezer," demanded the taller of the two Kirinin. "Who are you to make such demands?" asked Sakura as she covered the frightened bridge builder. "I'm Miizu," said the first man. "And I'm Guzu," said the other. "Together, we're the Demon Brothers, feared Chunin of the Mist." "Careful!" warned Kurenai, reappearing on a nearby tree branch. "These are C-class missing nin you're dealing with. They're relatively dangerous." A claw launched itself towards Sakura. Kiba launched himself in front of the weapon and managed to block it, but not before being nicked by its tip. Sasuke had engaged into battle with Guzu while Akamaru had Miizu in a bite grip. "Genjutsu, Kiri no Sakura, trans, cherry blossom mist!" yelled Sakura. A strange pink mist overwhelmed the Kirinin, disorienting them. Kiba, sensing the advantage, tossed Akamaru a soldier pill. The dog let go of the Chunin in his grip and took the pill. Suddenly, there was the all-too-familiar shout of Jujin Bunshin no Jutsu, followed by Shikyu no Jutsu, and then Jujin Bunshin Renden. The first Kiba gave Miizu a donkey kick. "Nu." The other Kiba drove Guzu into the ground. "Ziu." The second Kiba landed a sweep kick on Guzu. "Ka." The real Kiba gave Miizu a devastating slash with the Shiraga. The battle ended with the demon brothers thrashed within an inch of their lives by Sasuke and Kiba. Kurenai had tied them to a tree for the hunter nins to retrieve, and led Tajuna and Team 8 to a safe distance away. As they walked on, Sakura noticed Kiba's hand suddenly turn purple and brought this to the attention of their Jonin sensei. Kurenai pulled a kunai and sliced a cut on the Inuzuka's arm. The poisoned blood dripped out of the wound, and once the venom had been completely leached out, the cut was promptly cleaned and bandaged. What was that all about? Kurenai asked, leveling a scathing glare at the client. You said you needed protection, but you never told me that you needed protection from missing nin. This changes this mission from a C rank to a possible B or even A rank. Tajuna gulped, knowing that he had been found out. Alright, here's the truth. Wave has been taken over by Gato of Gato Shipping Companies. He's been monopolizing our trade routes for years. The bridge I'm building aims to cut the monopoly and bring free trade back to our country, but it seems that Gato hasn't taken this too well. Apparently, he's hired a bunch of thugs to take me out, so that the bridge will never be complete. Why'd ya have to hire us? Asked Kiba. Why not hire ninja from your own hidden village? That's the problem, said the old man. Wave Country's economy has been severely crippled by Gato's monopoly. Even the daimyo has to scrape the bottom of the barrel, and we don't have a ninja academy, so we hired you guys. However, we only had enough money for a C rank mission, so that's why I had to lie. I see, Kurenai replied, nodding. Team, we're pulling out. Team 8 looked at their sensei incredulously. What? Sasuke asked. I said we're pulling out, Kurenai repeated. This mission has already gotten out of hand, and now, Kiba is injured. There are times when retreat is the only option we have. No. Kiba cried as he got up. We can't go back to Konoha without finishing our mission. I'm an Inuzuka and Inuzukas never give up. It'll take a lot more than a little poison to make me pull my tail between my legs. Inuzuka's right, said a calm voice. Everyone turned to see Sasuke speak. Sasuke agreeing with Kiba? That was definitely a sign of the apocalypse. If we just leave our client out here, the mission would be considered a failure, we'd become the laughing stock of the entire village. I for one, will not tolerate a failed mission in my records, and besides, what kind of ninja would we be if we can't even complete a simple escort mission? How about you, Sakura? Asked the red-eyed Jonin. I agree with Kiba and Sasuke, Sakura replied. If we hurry, we can still make it to Nami and plan our strategies. Well, this is your lucky day, said Kurenai, returning her attention to Tajuna. My charges believe that it would be best to take you to your village first and protect you until we can request Konoha for some backup. Team 8 hurried along as they kept a wary eye among their surroundings. Just then, there was a rustle among the bushes. Akamaru jumped in only to flush out a white snow rabbit. Kurenai's eyes narrowed at this. White snow rabbit? During August? Something was amiss. Very amiss. Everyone duck. She commanded. Team 8 did as they were told as a Zanbato sailed past over their heads and embedded itself into a nearby tree. Sasuke had yanked down Tajuna just in time before the huge sword could decapitate the old man. Out of nowhere, a masked man appeared and landed on top of the sword. Well, if it isn't Devil Eyes Kurenai, sneered the newcomer. Kurenai glared at the man with venomous eyes. So you're behind this, demon of the mist. Kiba drew the Shiraga from its sheath. Sasuke and Sakura covered Tajuna once more. Kurenai, noticing the actions of her team, told them to take the old man and run. Get out of here, she commanded. This man is different from the other two you fought. He's the feared Kiri Jonin, Zabuza Momochi. But sensei, Sakura protested, we can't leave you behind. Naruto once told me that Kakashi sensei told him that those who broke the rules were scum, but those who abandoned their teammates were even worse than scum. Sakura's right, said Kiba. You're part of our pack, Kurenai sensei, and as an Inuzuka clan member, it's in our code of honor to never leave a pack member behind. Kurenai flinched. Damn Kakashi for his tirades on teamwork and the Inuzuka's pack mentality. Reluctantly, she allowed her team to stay. Zabuza smirked. Even if you had those genin brats with you, you wouldn't win. You could have simply handed the geezer over, and I would have let you leave with your lives. Pity, I'd really hate to cut up a pretty face like yours. Don't hold yourself in such high regard, Momochi, Kurenai scoffed. Even if we die, we'll never hand the bridge builder to you. Genjutsu, flower petal escape. Team 8 watched in awe as Kurenai vanished in a flash of flower petals and reappeared behind Zabuza, pressing a kunai onto his neck. Nice move, smirked the Mistnin. But how do you like this? Zabuza suddenly disintegrated into a puddle of water. Mizu Bunshin. Gasped Kurenai. Then where? Over here, replied the real Zabuza, yanking the Zanbato right under Kurena's feet, throwing her into a nearby pond. Kurenya-sensei! Yelled Kiba and Sakura, genuinely concerned for their mentor. Sasuke could not help but watch on in fear and awe as the Mizu Bunshin reformed to hold Kurenai in what seemed like an orb of water. Suro no Jutsu, chuckled the Kirinin. You like? He turned to the genin. Okay you brats, hand over the geezer within 5 minutes, or the pretty lady gets it, got it? Don't worry kids, said Kurenai. I'll be alright. However, as soon as the Genjutsu mistress uttered those words, she gave a gasp of pain as her chakra was slowly siphoned out. Hee hee. Chuckled the demon of the mist. Did I forget to mention that my version of the Suro no Jutsu has the ability to drain its victim's chakra? What do we do now? Asked Sakura. If we hand over Tajuna, we fail the mission, but if we don't hand him over, we lose Kurenya-sensei. I have an idea, said Sasuke. But you'll have to do everything I say. He gathered the group into a huddle and whispered something. Comprehending, Kiba and Sakura nodded and went to their positions, where Kiba took the front lines with Sasuke, while Sakura defended Tajuna. I have a proposition for you, said the Uchiha heir. Eat this. He yelled, hurling a Fuma shuriken towards the Kirinin. Zabuza dodged the spinning projectile. Ha! You missed. He sneered, before getting hit by a second Fuma shuriken. What the dash? The first Fuma transformed into Akamaru in clone form, who had simultaneously hurled the second Fuma shuriken and barreled into the Mizu Bunshin, dispelling it and releasing Kurenai. It's over, said Kurenai, making several hand signs. Magen, Jubakusatsu. Vines suddenly sprang out of nowhere, binding Zabuza to the tree. Kurenai made another bunch of hand signs and made the call, Magen, Yami no Guntai, Trans, Demonic Illusion, Army of Darkness. An army of grotesque creatures sprang out of the ground, clawing at the Zabuza. As the feared demon of the mist was reduced to a hysterical mass, Kurenai loomed above him, kunai raised, to put the man out of his misery, when several Senbon needles suddenly flew out of nowhere and struck Zabuza's neck, ultimately killing him. Kurenai dispelled her genjutsu to look for the needle thrower. Akamaru sniffed the air and finally stopped at a particular direction, baying all the while. Show yourself! Called Kurenai. A masked figure in green and yellow robes appeared from the treetops. The Kiri symbol was etched on his mask. Kiba recognized the form immediately. A hunter nin. He gasped. Sorry about that, said the hunter nin. I've been trailing Momochi for weeks. I was told to kill on sight. Leaping off his perch, he heft Zabuza's corpse over his shoulder, before disappearing into the forest. What was that all about? Asked Sakura. That was a hunter nin, explained Kiba. It's their job to go after missing nin and capture and slash or kill them if necessary. What bothers me though is why he had to bring the body. I know they usually destroy them on sight. Kiba's right, said Kurenai. Something is definitely. Ugh. The red-eyed Jonin suddenly collapsed. Kurenya-sensei! Yelled the genin. We have to do something! Shouted Sakura. Nami isn't that far from here, said Tajuna. We could take her to my house. End flashback. And that's what happened, said Kurenai. Whoa, said Naruto, rather awestruck. You guys took down a Jonin? That's so cool. I wish I could have been there to see that. Don't bother, replied Kakashi. I have a feeling that we'll be seeing our friend Zabuza very soon. What do you mean? Asked Sakura. He's dead. I saw him. The Senbon struck his neck and killed him. I think that's what that hunter Nin wanted us to think, said Sasuke. Think about it. Kiba said that hunter Nin usually destroy the corpses on sight. What if the hunter Nin we saw was in cahoots with Zabuza? So we'll be facing an A-class missing Nin? Asked Hinata, feeling rather scared. What a pain. Grumbled Shikamaru. Now I have to put more effort than I normally do. By effort, do you mean any at all? Naruto joked. Don't worry Hinata-chan. I'll protect you. We'll fight the bad guys and save this village together. Don't bother, came a new voice. Say what? Asked Naruto. A young boy, around 8 or 9, wearing a yellow shirt, green overalls, and a blue striped bucket hat came into the room. What's the point of fighting if you're going to die anyway? Geto's just going to kill you, just like how he's killed this village's spirit. Who's that kid and what's his deal? Asked Kiba. Tajuna sighed. That's my grandson Inari. He's been like that since his stepfather died. Oh. Said Hinata, bowing her head. I'm sorry for your loss. What do you care? Inari shot back, storming out of the room. I'm sorry for his behavior, apologized Tsunami. It's alright, said Hinata, not really wanting to be a bother. Excuse me a moment, said Naruto as he got up and followed Inari's point of exit. As he padded upstairs, he could hear light sobs coming from one of the rooms. Following the sound, he found Inari crying on his bed while clutching the photograph of a man. Daddy! Why do you have to go? As Naruto entered the room, he quietly knocked on the slightly ajar door, alerting Inari of his presence. What do you want? Inari asked rather heatedly, quickly wiping the tears from his eyes. In all truth, I was going to tell you off for snapping at my friend, but I heard you crying, answered the blonde. Naruto's eye landed on the photograph cradled against Inari. So this your dad? That's none of your business. Snapped the younger boy. And even if it was, it's not like you could ever understand anyway. That's where you're wrong. Naruto countered ferociously. Kid, you'd better listen and listen good. You're lucky you even had a dad at one point. I have never ever met mine. He died on the day I was born. And even if they're gone, I don't think our dads would want to see their sons moping about in their little emo corner. You're the man of the house now. Drop the crybaby act and take life as your dad would have. I'm sure that'd be the best way to honor his memory. Chapter 9, Tree Walkers. The next day, after breakfast, Teams 7 and 8 gathered into the forest behind Tajuna's house where Kurenai was waiting for them. Kakashi was unavailable today, as he was charged with the duty of guarding Tajuna. Team, she began. Today, we'll be learning how to climb trees. Tree climbing. Kiba burst out. But sensei, we all know how to climb trees. Even Akamaru and Aomaru can climb trees. Kurenai chuckled at the Inuzuka's brashness. She went to the base of a huge tree and walked right up to the top. Well, can you do this? She asked. Kiba gave a feral grin. Piece of cake. He scoffed. He ran up to the tree, just to fall down after 3 steps. Ow! He groaned. Kurenai walked over towards the fallen boy. Don't worry. My first time with this exercise was even worse, she said, trying to ease Kiba's bruised pride. Sakura helped him up and scolded him for being such a show-off, while Naruto and Hinata sat back, trying to suppress their snickers, and Shikamaru gave his trademark troublesome. Sasuke simply scoffed at the idea that he would be climbing trees with people from inferior clans, as the Uchiha elders used to call them. Listen, all of you, said Kurenai, gathering all the genin's attention. To be able shinobi, you have to be able to understand your capacities and limits. To put yourself down or underestimate the difficulty of a certain mission could mean certain death. Now I want you to climb the tree up to 3/4 of the way. You can mark your progress with your kunai. Any questions before we begin? Shikamaru raised his hand. I know it's too troublesome, but I'd like to know, how do we climb the tree without using our hands? Kurenai smiled. Good question, Shikamaru. You'll have to concentrate the chakra to your feet when you step on the tree trunk. Also, you have to regulate how much chakra you emit. Too much, and you could sink right into the tree. Too little, and you could fall off. And one more thing before you start. What's that? Asked Hinata. Good luck. The genin began their tree walking exercises. Sakura and Hinata, being naturals at chakra control, got the exercise immediately. Shikamaru, coming from a clan that specialized in shadow manipulation, which of course meant enhanced chakra control, got it after 5 tries. Sasuke glared at the 3. He was an Uchiha, a supposed natural in the shinobi arts, and he had been bested by a timid Hyuga, a Nara slacker, and that insipid civilian girl. He gritted his teeth and pushed on with his practice. Along with Sasuke, Kiba, and Naruto were not doing any better with their chakra control. The Inuzuka brothers were treating the exercise as if it were some crazy competition between them. Sasuke glared as he noticed the progress the Inuzukas were making. They may be class clowns, he noted, but when it came to honing their skills, the brothers actually took it very seriously even if they did treat it like a game. Ha! How ya like me now, Kibble? Naruto bragged as he cut a notch slightly above Kiba's last mark. The Inuzuka brothers had progressed into climbing a third of the height of the tree, just a bit below Sasuke. Don't count on it, fish cake. Scoffed Kiba as he cut another notch a few inches higher. Kurenai, who had seen the earlier progress with Sakura, Shikamaru, and Hinata, had added a new twist to their training regimen. They now had to balance a leaf on their foreheads while climbing the tree without dropping it. The test proved to be a bit harder, as Hinata suddenly dropped the leaf a fourth of the way up the tree. Shikamaru had an even harder time, he could not even take a step without dropping the leaf. Sasuke could feel anger and jealousy seeping into his veins. Failure was not an option, and it would be a cold day in hell before he would let anyone best him, especially the Inuzukas. If he was to defeat him, he'd have to strive to be number 1. Focusing all of his energy and effort, Sasuke took the steps and worked on. He had to be the best. An effeminate boy in green and yellow robes sighed as he plucked out the last of the senbon needles from the tall man's neck. His mask lay on the bedside table. Why do I feel like I've been run through by other 7 swordsmen? Groaned Zabuza Momochi as he tried to get up, only to collapse. The boy gave a cheerful smile. Actually, Master Zabuza, that was me. Sorry about the assassination attempt. That was the only way to get you to safety so we can regroup. Well, be careful next time. Zabuza snapped. That time, it felt all too real. When I see you again, Devil Eyes, there will be hell to pay. Just then, the door slammed open and a short, middle-aged man, flanked by a pair of burly men, came waddling into the room. I heard that the great demon of the mist was taken down by a group of children led by a woman, he sneered. How low the mighty have fallen. The boy angrily stood up only to be held back by Zabuza. Haku, stand down, he commanded. Glaring at the short, greasy man, he snarled, what do you want, Gato? Getting rather cheeky, aren't you, Momochi? Said Gato. Then, his voice acquired a deadly tone. I'm not paying you to roughhouse with some snot-nosed brats, so you'd better get this right and kill that old fart. Ugh. Haku had grabbed the short man by the arm and was now slowly twisting it. Don't tell Master Zabuza how to do his job, because he sure as hell doesn't tell you how to do yours. He let go of the arm and Gato backed away into his thugs. You brat. You'll pay for this. Snarled the tycoon, nursing his injured hand. A wave of killing intent suddenly washed over the room. I'll deal with those Konoha scum, so I suggest you'd better leave. Angrily, Gato stepped out of the room. You're crossing the line, Momochi. Another step further, and you might just find yourself sleeping with the fishes. By noon, both Team 7 and Team 8 had finally mastered tree walking, with Sasuke mastering it just before Naruto and Kiba. Because the Inuzuka brothers had the largest chakra capacity among the genin, it was understandable that they would be the last to complete the exercise. Kurenai had called a break and everyone was now eating lunch back in Tajuna's house. Sasuke, being the eager beaver, downed his meal faster than an Akimichi after a hunger strike, only to find himself running to the bathroom to empty the contents of his stomach. Sasuke-kun, maybe you should eat so fast, cautioned Hinata after the Uchiha returned to the table. Said Uchiha simply glared at the Hyuga before finishing the rest of his meal. Kurenai and Tsunami looked rather affronted, and Naruto glared back at the Uchiha for Hinata. Kiba, Sakura, and Shikamaru shook their heads, while Inari sat at his usual spot, looking rather contemplative. After lunch, everyone took a short recess in the living room. Shikamaru took 40 winks, and Kiba and Naruto had an arm wrestling contest, while the dogs had a tug-of-war on a piece of string. Hinata refereed the arm wrestling match, Sasuke brooded, and Sakura was reading an article on Nin Week magazine. Kurenai was in the kitchen, chatting with Tsunami. When the training regimen resumed, everyone had mastered tree walking by then, bringing Sasuke, Kiba, and Naruto into joining the leaf exercise. After mastering the tree walking exercise, it did not take too long for Sasuke to master the leaf exercise. Sakura and Hinata had mastered it as well and were currently observing Shikamaru, Naruto, and Kiba, all of whom were still struggling with it. There had been a rather hilarious scene when the leaf on Kiba's head suddenly caught fire. The Inuzuka ran around like a chicken with his head cut off, while Kurenai, Sakura, and Hinata tried to calm him down and extinguish the flames. Naruto and Shikamaru paused their training to laugh at the scene before them, and even a small chuckle escaped from Sasuke's lips. By the end of the day, only Naruto and Kiba had not mastered the leaf exercise. As the tired genin shuffled back into the house, they found Kakashi and Tajuna already there. Kurenai and the girls went to help Tsunami in the kitchen, whereas the boys and men busied themselves with various activities in the living room. Moments later, dinner was ready, and everyone was gathered around the table, eating. The meal was simple, but delicious vegetable soup, fish, and yakisoba. Naruto complimented Tsunami on the vegetable soup only to find out that it was Hinata who made it. He then gave his compliments to the Hyuga only to have her blush and twiddle her fingers. Even Kiba, who hated vegetables, enjoyed the soup. "So Kakashi-sensei, how was guard duty?" asked Naruto between mouthfuls. "You know, same old," replied the masked nin. So far, there had been no attempts on the old man's life, but it's best if we still keep our guard up. "So, how's your training?" There was an excited chorus of voices as the genin relayed on the day's activities. When they were done, Kakashi was beaming at them. "Excellent work, kids," said the copy nin. "I guess tomorrow, we'll be taking your training up a notch." "What about Kiba and me, sensei?" asked Naruto. "We can't do the advanced training if we're still stuck at the leaf exercise." Kakashi's visible eye crinkled into an upside-down crescent. "Not to worry, just keep practicing and don't give up. Once you get it, I'll help you guys with the advanced training." After dinner, everyone went back to the living room and socialized for a while until Tsunami called for bedtime and lights out. Not wanting to upset their generous host, the Konoha ninja complied. Soon everyone lay dreaming in their futons and sleeping bags, all except one. When he was certain that everyone was asleep, Naruto crept towards Kiba. Kiba was drooling slightly and talking in his sleep. He said random things like, "monkey, cracker, pickle." Naruto shook his brother slightly and woke him up. Kiba was a little irritable when he woke up, but when Naruto told him what they were going to do, he brightened up a bit. Picking up their dogs, the Inuzuka brothers quietly snuck out of the house and resumed the leaf exercise. Morning came, and Naruto and Kiba found themselves being woken up by the sound of the dogs barking. "What is it, boys?" yawned Kiba, rubbing the sleep away his eyes. Suddenly, he stopped in his steps and stood there mouth agape. "Hey Kiba, what happened? Cat got your brain?" Naruto joked. Kiba simply turned Naruto's head to the direction he was staring at and Naruto too fell into Kiba's trance. Before them stood a long-haired girl in a pink kimono with a basket of herbs. "Hello," she smiled at them. "Humana, Humana, Humana." Kiba chanted the words like a mantra. Beside him, Naruto was completely speechless. "What are you two doing in the forest?" asked the girl. "We Kiba was at a loss for words. Aomaru gave Naruto a slight nip, snapping him out of his trance. He politely bowed to the girl. Sorry for the sudden choke. My name's Naruto Inuzuka, and the bonehead beside me is my brother Kiba. We were training in the forest and must have fallen asleep. Naruto's insult broke Kiba out of his daze. I'm not a bonehead, he growled, giving the blonde one of his power nudges. The girl giggled at the comical scene, catching his attention. How about you? He asked. What's your name and what are you doing in this parts? My name is Haku, the girl replied. I usually come here to look for medicinal herbs. Really? Said Naruto, rather interested. You know, you have a lot in common with our friends Hinata and Sakura. I am sure you girls will be friends in no time. I know I don't look it, laughed Haku. But I'm actually a boy. Kiba and Naruto's jaw dropped. You're a boy. The Inuzuka brothers looked at each other. Then they looked at Haku. Then they looked at each other again. He's even prettier than Sakura. Kiba screamed mentally. To give Naruto credit, he managed to compose himself and not freak out like Kiba did. Just then, familiar voices rang out through the forest. Naruto. Kiba. Where are you? Naruto-kun. Kiba-kun. Akamaru? Aomaru. Where are you, Inuzuka? Kiba, Naruto. Stop being troublesome. Hey. It's our friends. Naruto beamed. Suddenly, a dull growl erupted from his stomach. Hee. He grinned sheepishly. Hey Haku. Why don't you join us for breakfast? I'm sure our host won't mind. Haku seemed uncertain. I don't know. Please. Kiba wheedled. But. Please. Begged the Inuzuka brothers in unison, while giving him the puppy dog face, along with their puppy dogs. You won't regret it. And you'll like our friends. They're very nice. Haku gave a defeated sigh. Okay. He grabbed his basket and followed the Inuzukas to rejoin their friends. Chapter 10, More Training. At breakfast, everyone was staring, or in Sasuke and Inari's case, glaring at the newcomer. Hinata, Shikamaru, and Sakura, on the other hand, were making fast friends for the shared interests of medicine and shogi, respectively. In fact, after breakfast, Shikamaru challenged Haku to a shogi match. Although Haku lost, the match lasted for a good 30 minutes, proving that the feminine boy was at least smart enough to give Shikamaru a bit of a challenge. The grown UPS struck a light conversation with him as well, earning a polite response to each question. After a while, both Kurenai and Tajuna left for downtown and run some errands, and Haku followed suit, having to return home as well, leaving the children at Tajuna's with Kakashi and Tsunami. Is he always like this? Asked Kiba. The 6 Konoha genin were currently waiting for Kakashi in the woods beyond Tajuna's property. With Kurenai in charge of guard detail, it was Hatake's turn to train them. You have no idea, replied Shikamaru, gazing up at the clouds floating by. It's really troublesome waiting for him. As if on cue, Kakashi finally arrived with the oh-so-familiar orange book, snickering as he walked. Where were you? Yelled Naruto, Kiba, and Sakura. Kakashi simply smiled at the children. Sorry about that. I just about to meet up with you when I suddenly had a case of the runs. Okay, too much information. Sakura yelled, a greenish hue tinting her face. The other genin nodded in agreement, looking equally appalled. Kakashi looked at the teams assembled before him. Okay, he said, snapping his book shut. Before we tackle today's lesson, I'd like to see your progress with the chakra control. Please demonstrate yesterday's leaf exercise. The genin did as they were told, but suddenly there was an angry outburst from Sasuke. How did you do that? He exclaimed. Do what? Asked Naruto. The 2 Inuzuka nindogs cocked their heads confusedly. Don't play dumb with me, snarled the Uchiha. When did you master the leaf exercise? Last time I checked, you couldn't do it without dropping the leaf or setting it on fire. Isn't it obvious what we did when you didn't find us in bed last night? Kiba retorted with a derisive snort. Boys, enough, Kakashi commanded. Naruto, Kiba, you should know how dangerous it is to train by yourselves outside the village. Sasuke smirked at the guilty expressions of the Inuzuka brothers. But it shows that you were dedicated enough to master the leaf exercise on your own initiative. Excellent work, finished the Kopinen, beaming beneath his mask. At this, Sasuke resumed his normal scowl. Of course we'd push through, Kakashi-sensei, said Naruto. It's the Inuzuka Nindo to never back down no matter what the odds. So anyway, said Kakashi, resuming his lecture. Since you guys already have a good grasp of chakra control, I felt that today we're going to learn some new jutsus. Yes. Kiba and Naruto high-fived each other and their dogs gave a happy yip. Hinata and Sakura giggled at their antics, and Shikamaru grumbled under his breath. Sasuke's eyes shimmered with anticipation. Kakashi then handed each of the 6 genin a piece of paper. What's this? Asked Kiba, frowning at the paper in his hand. I thought we were going to learn new jutsus. We are, replied Sakura. If I recall, this is a special type of paper used for determining your chakra affinity. It's very much like the litmus paper scientists use in determining the pH levels of substances. What's chakra affinity? Kiba asked dumbly. Sakura sighed, shaking her head. Kiba, do you listen in class at all? The Inuzuka gave her a sheepish grin and Sakura's sweat dropped. I'll take that as a no. Anyway, chakra affinity is the elemental affinity of your chakra. There are 5 elemental affinities: fire, wind, water, earth, and lightning. Your chakra affinity can affect the jutsus you use or specialize in. For example, the Uchiha clan specialized in fire jutsus because most of them had fire affinity. Although shadow is not listed as an element, many Nara clan members have this special affinity, thus allowing them to use shadow techniques. Naruto and Hinata clapped their hands. Wow, Sakura, you sure are smart. Complimented Kiba. Sakura blushed. No, I'm not. I just study, that's all. Ahem. The genin shifted their attention back to Kakashi. As Sakura had already explained the purpose of this exercise, I now want you to channel your chakra into the paper. As the genin did what Kakashi instructed, they were amused and perplexed with their respective results. Naruto and Kiba's papers split in half, Hinata's paper got soggy, and Sakura's crumbled into dust. As expected of Inara, Shikamaru's chakra card was tainted black. Strangely enough, Sasuke's chakra card not only made crackling noises, a part of it was set on fire as well. Well, what do you know, mused Kakashi. Looks like we got ourselves a couple of wind types, a water type, an earth type, a shadow type, and a fire lightning type. Now let's get started with your training. Kakashi, being a lightning type himself, could only tell Naruto and Kiba what he knew about one of the more basic wind jutsu, Futon, de Tapa. However, he promised that he would contact some of his other Jonin colleagues to aid them with their Kenjutsu and some more effective wind jutsu. Sasuke, already proficient in the Katon Jutsu, did not need further instruction on that field. On the other hand, he was eager, as much as his Uchiha pride could allow, to learn some Raiden Jutsu: Raiden, Raidama, Trans, Lightning Style, Lightning Bullet, and Raiden, Raisenka, similar to the Hosenka, except it utilized lightning. When Sasuke had asked Kakashi if he knew any more jutsus, the Jonin simply replied, "It's too dangerous. Maybe next time," thus infuriating the Uchiha. Being a veteran of the Third Great Shinobi War, Kakashi had learned enough water and earth jutsus and coached Hinata and Sakura on various techniques, including the Mizu Bunshin no Jutsu, Suten, Teppadama, and Suro no Jutsu for Hinata, and Doton, Shinjuzanshu no Jutsu, and Doton, Dahari, Trans, Earth Style, Earth Spike, for Sakura. Unfortunately, Kakashi had no knowledge of any shadow jutsus, as it was a Nara clan secret. He simply told Shikamaru to work on what he already had, and learn new techniques from his other family members. But being a natural genius like Shikamaru, Kakashi engaged the Nara heir in several strategic games, honing his abilities as a tactician. The genin spent half the day mastering the jutsus Kakashi taught them. Later, the masked nin told them to spar with each other. Sasuke had called dibs on Naruto. Hinata squared off against Sakura, leaving Kiba to go against Shikamaru. Because of limited space, the mock fight was going to be in the tournament, round-robin style. Hinata and Sakura were up first. The Hyuga activated her Byakugan and took to her Jiyuken stance. Sakura winced, realizing that Genjutsu would be fairly useless. And compared to Sakura's academy-style taijutsu, Hinata was closer to a pro. Hinata charged, sending a flurry of strikes towards the other girl. Sakura tried to evade as much as she could, but by the time it was over, at least 12 of her tenketsus had been shut. Without Genjutsu and taijutsu to fall back on, Sakura had to solely rely on ninjutsu. Despite being fairly disabled after the last Jiyuken strike, Sakura managed through the hand signs that Kakashi had taught her earlier. Pulling off a Dahari, Sakura managed to take out Hinata, only to discover that it was a Mizu Bunshin to her dismay. It was then that Hinata took the opportunity to attack from above. Acting quickly, the Pinkette used a Kawarami and evaded in time. Channeling her chakra to her feet, Sakura dashed forward, feinting for Hinata, and used another Kawarami just the Hyuga was about to pull another Jiyuken strike. Reappearing behind Hinata, Sakura cried out, "Doton, Shinjuzanshu no Jutsu." Trapped, Hinata had no choice but to concede. As Sakura helped Hinata climb out of the hole, the next match began. It was now Kiba versus Shikamaru. The Inyazuka went into his Shikyu stance and popped a pill towards Akamaru before activating the Jujin Bunshin no Jutsu. At first, Kiba had the advantage attacking viciously, not even giving Shikamaru enough leeway to think. But just as all seemed lost for the Nara, Shikamaru managed to create a Kage Bunshin with a quick hand sign. Then the two Shikamarus simultaneously detonated a smoke bomb and an explosive tag, disorienting Kiba and the beast clone. When the smoke cleared, the two Shikamarus had captured one of the Kibas with a Kagemana. Upon seeing the state of the first Kiba, the second Kiba rushed for a straightforward attack. Unfortunately, that was exactly what Shikamaru wanted. As soon as the second Kiba came into range, one of the Shikamarus redirected his shadow and captured him too. "Cool move, Shika," complimented Naruto. "I've never seen it before." "Yes, Shikamaru," remarked Kakashi. "I don't think I've ever seen the other Naras use that technique." "Did you make it up on the spot?" said Nara. Simply gave a bored look and nodded his head. "I call it the Kagemana Renden, trans, shadow bind combo. A little troublesome, but very useful." Sasuke looked at Shikamaru with jealousy. It was not fair that his Sharingan had not activated yet, otherwise he would have simply copied the technique. After all, even clan techniques, no matter how secret, were no match for the Sharingan as long as it had hand seals. Even taijutsu moves were not safe when pitted against the Sharingan. But for now, the Kagemana Renden was safe. It was Sasuke and Naruto's turn at last. The top two rookies from the Konoha Ninja Academy were finally going to break the tie. For a brief moment, Kiba struggled with his conscience and moral decency. But the human nature of greed eventually won over, and he began to call for bets. Shikamaru wagered a Yanika Q coupon, and Sakura threw in a Yum Yum bar. Kiba decided to raise the stakes with 50 Ryo, and was rewarded by Kakashi, of all people, joining in for 100 Ryo. Her heart already set on Naruto to win, Hinata was the only one who did not enter the gamble. As they prepared to fight, Naruto gave Aomera the required pill and slipped into Shikyu mode. But instead of charging head-on, as was the normal Inyazuka style, he simply stood there, waiting, eyes trained on the Uchiha. Naruto's prudent move proved to be a shocker for everyone, Sasuke included. Seeing this, Sasuke took it as his chance to attack and threw the first strike, only to have the Inyazuka dodge it. Undaunted, the Uchiha lashed out a haymaker, to which Naruto blocked and countered. Aomera came in for a tackle roll, but Sasuke evaded it. "Heh," he scoffed. "Even if you have that mangy mutt with you, I'll still be able to beat you." "Well then," said Naruto. "If you can talk the talk, let's see you walk the walk." Tsuga. The Inyazuka transformed into a drilling tornado that charged towards Sasuke. The Uchiha responded by using the Hozenka. Naruto managed to evade most of them until he dropped the ball near the end of the attack. One of the fiery attacks managed to catch him, stunning him momentarily. Sasuke seized his chance, unleashing every taijutsu combination in the book, as well as a few from his clan style. Unfortunately for Sasuke, Naruto was no stranger to taijutsu. As the Uchiha threw another sidewinder, his leg was intercepted by Naruto's arm. He was then hit in the stomach and sent flying. It was then that he realized that, like Hinata, the best option against Naruto would be ninjutsu. Naruto momentarily found himself besieged by fire and lightning jutsus. Without any elemental jutsu to back him up, he settled for dodging them, his mind working up a rough plan. It was a long shot, but Inuzukas were risk-takers by nature, and it was a chance he had to take. So this is the power of the Uchiha clan, eh? He taunted. In response to the jibe, Sasuke made a noise that sounded a lot like the usual Inuzuka growl. Fueled by his temper, the speed and power of his attacks increased. Naruto smirked. His plan was going in perfect motion. With each miss that Sasuke made, Kakashi noticed that the Uchiha was getting frustrated, and as the frustration increased, the sloppier Sasuke's moves became. "What a fox," murmured the Jonin. Sakura looked at Team 7's leader. "What do you mean, Kakashi-sensei?" Shikamaru answered for Kakashi. "Sasuke is getting frustrated, right?" Sakura nodded. "And you can see him throw more and more of his more powerful jutsus, right?" Sakura nodded again. "As long as Naruto stays on the defense, he doesn't have to use up his chakra. But while he stays on the defense, he's also set up a few traps for Sasuke." Kiba looked confused. "What traps?" "Naruto didn't have enough time to put any traps. Look." Hinata's voice broke the conversation. On the battleground, Sasuke had collapsed onto one knee, whereas Naruto and Aomeru remained daisy-fresh. "That's what I was talking about," said Kakashi. Naruto had outsmarted Sasuke into using up his chakra. Without his chakra, Sasuke is unable to continue the battle, thus proving that defense can be the best offense. Kiba, Sakura, and Shikamaru gaped at the blonde Inuzuka. Because of his usually knucklehead demeanor, it was rather easy to forget that Naruto was actually smart enough to give Konoha's best prodigies a run for their money. Naruto walked up to Sasuke and stretched out his hand. "That was a good match, Uchiha-san," he replied, using all the respect that he could muster. "No hard feelings." The Uchiha stared at the outstretched hand with barely hidden disgust before slapping it away and stalked off to Tajuna's house. "Sore loser," Kiba muttered under his breath. Akamaru and Aomeru growled at the retreating Uchiha's back. "I win," Shikamaru said in an almost enthusiastic manner. "That means I keep my Yanika Q coupon, and receive a Yum Yum bar and 150 Ryo as well. Fork it over." Grumbling, Sakura handed the candy over, whereas Kakashi gave a nonchalant shrug and handed a pair of crisp 50 Ryo bills to the Nara. "Hey, I bet on Naruto too," growled Kiba, not wanting to part with his money. "Troublesome. Look, the coupon is a 2-for-1, and we can split the candy and the money 50-50, but can't we wait until we get to the house?" Kiba sighed. "Fine." As everyone shuffled back towards Tajuna's, only Hinata and Naruto were left in the training ground. "Congratulations, Naruto-kun. I knew you could do it," she murmured, twiddling her fingers. "Thanks, Hinata-chan. You did well too," Naruto said brightly. Hinata looked downcast. But I lost. I feel like such a failure." Naruto frowned. "Don't say that. You're not a failure. Even though you lost to Sakura, you still won. You won new skills and you won my respect for you as a great kunoichi." Hinata blushed at Naruto's words. She tried to say something, but couldn't. The next thing she knew, she had already passed out. Fortunately, before the Hyuga hit the ground, Naruto caught her. Looking at the unconscious Hinata, Naruto felt his cheeks heat up. She appeared so shy, but she could actually hold out on her own. Carrying her bridal style, he called Aomeru and headed off to Tajuna's house as well. Chapter 11, Here's Trouble. It had been 3 days since their stay at Wave and the jutsu training went well. Aside from chakra control, Sakura, Sasuke, and Hinata were learning genjutsu from Kurenai as well. Bodyguard duty for Kakashi and Kurenai was also rather mild as they had not seen an eye or ear of any of Geto's agents. As everyone got ready for the day, Kiba broke the never-ending cycle of training and watching Tajuna. "This stinks," he exclaimed. "We've been here for almost a week and so far, there's been no action." I just want to get out there and kick some butt. Kiba. Kurenai warned, but Kakashi held up his hand. Okay Kiba, because you've done so well with your training, I'll take you with me on today's bodyguard duty. Kiba's face brightened. Really? Thanks, Kakashi-sensei. Turning to Naruto, Kiba stuck out his tongue. Nya, I'm going to see a bit of action and you're not. Kiba, behave or I'm not taking you with me, scolded Kakashi. The Inuzuka hung his head. Sorry. Sasuke raised his hand. Sensei, he gritted out with forced respect. Could I also go with you? I'm getting tired of sitting around and doing nothing. Well now? It's going to be one heck of a party, isn't it? Joked the one-eyed Jonin. Who else wants to go? Speak now or forever hold your peace. Sakura raised her hand as well. Cabin fever, she explained. Kakashi looked at the teammate. Since the three of you are going, I guess this means that Kurenai and I will be switching teams. Okay guys, let's head out before Tajuna dies of old age. Tajuna glared at Kakashi. I'm not that old. He protested. Yes you are, Kiba contradicted. You're proof enough that dinosaurs actually existed. A tick formed on the old man's brow. Why you? Hey, I'm just saying. The brunette shot back. Tajuna frowned as he put on his hard hat. Brat, if you weren't protecting me and my family right now, I'd kick you out of my house. I'm not a brat. Kiba protested. Sakura shook her head as she nudged the Inuzuka towards the door. With that attitude, you sure are. Come on, let's go. Pretty soon, everyone left, leaving Kurenai and Team 7 at the house with Tsunami and Inari. It was rather boring, so they settled to watching reruns of Ninkame on the TV. Shikamaru eventually fell asleep, leaving Hinata, Naruto, Kurenai, and Inari to finish the show. Halfway through the show, a scream rang out in the kitchen alerting Inari and the Konoha ninja. They ran into the kitchen to find Tsunami being dragged out by a pair of thuggish men. Mom! Cried Inari, rushing towards the door, only to be held back by Shikamaru. This is bad. Muttered Kurenai. If these goons are here for Tsunami that means. Dear God! Hinata, come with me. Why? Asked the Hyuga. No time for questions. Replied Kurenai. Let's go. Naruto, Shikamaru, it is imperative that you save Tsunami. Am I clear? The two kunoichi dashed off to warn Kakashi while Naruto, Shikamaru, and Aomaru raced towards the thugs. What's with the brats? Scoffed one of the thugs. Konoha must be getting a bit high and mighty if they're now sending little kids for a man's job. Naruto bristled at the insult. Just as he was about to lunge towards the thugs, Shikamaru held him back. What the hell, Shika? Naruto all but yelled. SHH. Keep your voice down, Naruto. I have a plan, whispered the Nara. Facing the thugs, he replied. Okay, you got us. It's obvious that kids like us got nothing against guys like you. He turned to leave. Naruto gave Shikamaru a look that screamed what the heck, and Aomaru growled to express his displeasure at the Nara. Suddenly, Shikamaru turned back around, his hands in the rat seal. Kagemana no Jutsu! He cried. The thugs' shadows were now in his control, their owners immobilized. Shikamaru smirked. Checkmate. All right, Shika. Naruto cheered. Now it's my turn. Tossing a pill to Aomaru and making the necessary hand seals, he shouted. Jujin Bunshin no Jutsu. A puff of smoke appeared and was replaced by a second Naruto. Jujin Bunshin Renden. Yelled Naruto, unsheathing his sword. Yelled the original, giving the first thug a nasty swipe with the Kodaki. Nu, screamed the clone, giving the second thug a devastating uppercut. Ziu, shouted the clone giving a spin kick to the back of the second thug's head. Ka. The two Narutos reeled in from two different directions for the final strike, the original dealing a blinding slash, and the clone with a roundhouse kick. Within the 4 moves, the two thugs were out cold and bound up tighter than a Christmas turkey. Yeah, glad that's over, said Shikamaru as he helped Naruto check on Tsunami. Excuse me. The two genin turned around to find Inari staring at them with teary eyes. I want to thank you guys for saving my mom. And I want to apologize for my attitude towards you over the last few days. I want to be strong. I want to be just like you. I don't want to be a crybaby anymore. Naruto gave the boy a brotherly rub on the head. Kid, he replied. It's okay to cry. It simply means you're human. As for being strong, well, all you have to do is to stand up for what you believe in and push through. Do you understand? Inari nodded and ran to his mother's arms. Shikamaru looked at Naruto and tilted his head towards the bridge. Naruto understood immediately. I'm sorry, but we have to go. Tsunami-san, Inari, please stay here until we return. Your father and our teammates are in grave danger. Kiba frowned. He was expecting to have an action-filled day at the bridge, but instead, he found his teammates and himself helping Kakashi and Tajuna lift beams and crossbars. Sasuke and Sakura were none too happy either. Where's the rest of the work crew? Sakura inquired, looking around. Tajuna took a swig of his sake. They left. Geto's thugs have been harassing everyone until all my men left one by one. I'm the only one left. HN. Cowards. Sasuke scoffed, only to be elbowed by Kakashi. Sakura brought a hand to her mouth. I'm sorry. Tajuna shrugged. Don't sweat it. The bridge is practically done anyway. Suddenly Akamaru started growling. What's that, boy? Asked Kiba. You smell trouble? The Inuzuka sniffed the air. Yeah, I sense it too. Smells kinda familiar. Suddenly, Kurenai and Hinata came running into the horizon. Kakashi. Children. Tajuna-san. Glad you're still in one piece. Kakashi was stumped. Hinata? Kurenai-san. What's going on? You're in danger. Huffed Kurenai. A pair of thugs attacked the house. Tajuna's eyes widened at this. Don't worry, I had Naruto and Shikamaru take care of it, she amended. The old man breathed a sigh of relief. He didn't know what he would do should something happen to his daughter and grandson. It was a good thing that he did hire the Konohinin. Mist suddenly began to fill the area. Kurenai stood by Kakashi in battle position. Hinata activated her Byakugan. Sasuke, Sakura, and Kiba ran to guard Tajuna. Zabuza! Kakashi hissed. Kiba, look out! Hinata tackled the Inuzuka. Kiba looked at the Hyuga and at the ground where he was standing moments ago. Senbon needles were embedded into the concrete. Hello! A hunternin in green and yellow robes suddenly appeared and approached the bridge builder. I'm sorry that your mission has to end in failure, but it is our duty to kill the old man. Over our dead bodies, you poser! Growled Kiba, unsheathing the Shiraga. Seems like the verdict has been decided, chuckled the hunternin, readying another set of Senbon. A shuriken suddenly whizzed by his head. The hunternin dodged just in time. All right, the cavalry has arrived. Yelled a rather obnoxious yet endearing voice. ARF. Stop being troublesome and wait for me. Wheezed a bored-sounding voice. Shikamaru. Naruto. Aomaru. You're here. Shouted Sakura, sounding relieved. TCH. The loser brigade, sneered Sasuke, inwardly calculating for the perfect opportunity to prove his worth against his fellow top-notcher. Finally, the party's here, cheered Kiba. He smirked at the hunternin. You're gonna get it now. Naruto-kun, Shikamaru-kun, Aomaru-chan. Smiled Hinata. TCH. More of those genin brats. Scoffed Zabuza. No matter. My apprentice will take care of them immediately. Kakashi rushed to protect his charges, only to have his path blocked by a Mizu Bunshin. Ah! What's the rush, Sherry-non Kakashi? Sneered the Kirinin. Isn't it a shinobi rule to always pay attention to your opponents? Your beef is with me. Shouted Kurenai. Magen, Iron Maiden. Zabuza found himself facing a strange-looking box. All of a sudden, its lid flew open, revealing a spike-filled interior. Chains shot out from the box and wrapped themselves around the swordsman, reeling him in. As quickly as it was opened, the lid closed, giving the man a rather gory end. However, Zabuza was not an A-rank shinobi for nothing. Forming the hand seals, he shouted, "Kai!" The illusion vanished. Although a bit haggard from the harrowing experience, he still managed to smirk at the red-eyed Jonin. "Nice try, but it's gonna take a lot more than that to defeat the Demon of the Mist," he shouted, charging at Kurenai. The hunter Nin was surrounded. He had to defeat the 4 genin surrounding him, and he would still have to fight off the 2 remaining genin who were guarding the old man. In addition, 2 of the genin had nin dogs. However, he was not afraid. Oh no, he had several tricks up his sleeve. Making the hand signs, the hunter Nin shouted, "Makyo Hayasho!" Giant mirrors of ice suddenly surrounded the 4 genin, blocking them off from their teammates and team leaders. The hunter Nin smirked behind his mask. The tables had been turned. That's it for part 2. Thank you for watching and see you on the next video.